Episode 6 of She-Hulk was something. I'm not gonna say this was my favorite, but I also didn't hate it. Before we get too deep into anything, we're gonna be talking about spoilers in this video, breakdown, details you might have missed, and a basic review. So if you haven't seen the episode yet, save this video for later so I don't spoil it for you. Now, let's get into that review. First of all, I don't know. I enjoyed parts of it. The whole thing about the wedding and how it's a self-contained episode was interesting. They added some cool characters into it, with Mallory and Nikki dealing with Mr. Immortal, but I'll get into that part. However, the wedding part was just kind of fun. Like, there were fun moments to it, but some of it felt really awkward and off to watch. And I'm pretty sure you're supposed to feel that way. Like, first of all, Jen's friend, complete bitch. I did not like her. She only invited Jen for attention, I think, and to use Jen. Like, she got mad at her for showing up in her She-Hulk form, but then she was drunk later and accepted her to be She-Hulk. But it was all for her own goal. She wanted it to kind of make herself look good, I'm pretty sure. And like I said, she was using Jen through the whole episode, and she was a bad friend. And they haven't talked in years. Jen should have just said no. And then Titania was there, and Titania and Jen's little fight was fun, but it felt very unnecessary. I know they're trying to build them up as rivals, and how, Titania hates Jen, but we haven't really got a reason why, other than, Jen punching her in the first episode and then taking away the She-Hulk name, even though it was her name. I'm still looking forward to seeing more Titania versus She-Hulk, more or less because I want to see them kind of be rivals and fight each other and, hate each other even more, and I think it's just going to be fun. I don't know how I feel. It's just a weird episode, in my opinion. Plus, they said a fucking Daredevil in the last episode, didn't show him in this episode, which was just... I was hoping for at least a post-credit scene, because it was such why would you tease us like that and then push it for another episode? Well, she even said in the episode, it's a self-contained episode. It is fourth wall break, kind of setting it all, but still. But there were some nice little Easter eggs in it and details from the comics that you might have missed if you haven't read the comics. Honestly, I missed them at first too, but I'm like, wait a second, that name sounds familiar. Anyways, when we get into this, we'll go through the episode. I'm going to go through the parts. We'll go through the Jen story part first, and then we'll go to the Mallory and Nikki part, just to separate them, because they were kind of two separate things. Except when it tied in at the very end, which it kind of didn't, and it kind of didn't. This is a self-contained wedding episode, where we didn't really ever see any wedding stuff happen other than the rehearsal dinner, and I think the reception. They weren't really clear on that. All of a sudden, they were wearing pink dresses, and there was no wedding part we actually saw. The cool part, though, is when you watch the episode, when it starts, instead of just being She-Hulk, it's just Jen. Which is fun. I like how they're changing the intro depending on how the episode's going to go. And it makes me wonder that if the Daredevil episode will have, red and yellow for Daredevil. And I'm just curious, because I think if they keep doing it this way, it'll be fun. When the show started, it showed flashbacks of the first couple episodes where Bruce was telling Jen about her blood and how no one can get a hold of it, and then showing that the Wrecking Crew is trying to get her blood. So I was waiting for the whole point through the entire goddamn episode when Jen was going to have someone try to take her blood. But that didn't come until the very end, where it shows that some scientists have been watching her on this form and trying to find a way to get into her bloodstream. They had the needle from the Wrecking Crew, and now they have a new one that looks like it might be able to pierce her skin. And then they close, and it's like a hazard symbol on it. And I was looking at it, I'm like, why does this look so familiar? And I swear, it has to do with that one scene, and I can't remember if it's from Incredible Hulk, but I just remember cylinders, and I think that symbol was on it from one of the earlier movies in the MCU. That had to do with the Hulk and the super soldier serum. I can't remember. I am completely blanking. So let me know what movie it's from, because I tried looking it up and I couldn't find it. But I'm pretty sure that's what it's from. Feels like the government is trying to get her blood, or maybe the leader. Because the leader's supposed to come back in the Captain America movie, the next one, I think that he could show up also in She-Hulk as the villain trying to get her blood. Or, like I said, it could just be the military trying to create their own Hulk, which is how Red Hulk was born. But let's get back to the wedding. I like how Titania's there, and then Jen goes to her, and Titania just makes Jen look like she's crazy, because they're like, no, Titania's here because she's a guest. She's not here to try to start any shit. But of course she was. But later in the episode, Titania just comes in and fully decks fucking Jen in the face while she's drunk puking, and I'm like, holy shit. That was one of the parts I really liked. It was just funny, and it caught me off guard. And I love it because she just decks Jen, and nothing happens to Jen. Jen just kind of takes it and hits the ground. I'm like, so in her human form, she can still take the hits. She's not going to die, because that was a fucking powerful hit to punch her in the face and send her flying backwards. But then they got in a huge spat. Jen couldn't turn into She-Hulk because of her being drunk, which we haven't seen yet, which I thought was kind of funny. Performance issues, not remembering how to do it. When they got into the little fight, I like how they're fighting in the dance floor and everyone's watching, and Ched turns around and starts DJing it. Oh, that was fun. A little slow-mo shot to show her getting punched in the face, which was, that was a nice little shot for her. Really short fight, of course, because Titania ends up slipping and hitting her face on the ground, getting embarrassed and just leaving, which was really anticlimactic, but I think that's just trying to build the fact that they're enemies and seeing that this is just another reason for Titania to hate Jen. But that's just my 2 cents. Otherwise, the other wedding stuff kind of fell flat for me. I did like, though, that Jen was meeting a guy at the wedding and that they were kind of getting along. He was getting to know her. I have a feeling that he has ulterior motives because of the fact that at the very end of the episode, she was being watched with him. So maybe he was sent by this organization that's trying to get her blood, and he's the one there to try to do it. Maybe that's what's happening, but that's just my theory. Who knows? He might just be a generally good guy, but we know in these kind of situations, in these kind of shows, no one's ever just that good guy. There's always something that's going to go wrong. I also like how drunk Jen earlier was trying to call Bruce, like, I haven't talked to you in days. Where are you? Months, weeks? I think that means Bruce might be coming back soon. And hopefully we'll find out what happened to him on Sakaar and why he went there. When the fight ended, Jen's friend Lulu comes in her wedding dress and is all hammered as shit and just hugs She-Hulk like, oh, I love you, She-Hulk. Oh my God, you're at my wedding. Even though she literally told Jen, like probably, I guess the day before, however long the time period was, that she didn't want her to be She-Hulk at her wedding. And I'm like, she's a two-faced bitch. Again, I think she just wanted to do it for the attention. I did not like her friend at all, and I think that was the point. Anyways, now let's get to the point where we had actual Marvel references, which is the Mallory and Nikki court case that has to do with Mr. Immortal's divorce. And Mr. Immortal is a comic book character. AKA Craig Hollis is a character from Marvel Comics who has the power of immortality. And he's been around for a long time. You might be thinking, is Mr. Immortal a mutant? Well, no, he's actually a Homo Supreme, which is beyond human and mutants, which just means he's evolved beyond everything because he's immortal. And in the comics, he is the leader of the Great Lake Avengers. The team members of the Great Lake Avengers were Big Bertha, Dinosaur, like dinosaur, like literally dinosaur, but it's called Dinosaur, Doorman, Flatman, some weird and wacky characters, and something I never really thought we'd see in the MCU. But Mr. Immortal needed Mallory's help with a divorce case with his multiple wives and husband from over the years who he would just kill himself so that he'd get out of the relationship. Now they're just trying to get all the money back that they wasted on him, who just up and left them. Because if things got difficult, he would just off himself, which he did when Mallory and Nikki were talking. He just jumped out the window and killed himself. And then he stood right back up and walked away. Which was just funny how Mr. Immortal, someone who's immortal, has multiple wives and a husband, and to get out of a relationship, he would just kill himself. That just fake his death and make a new identity, which was that just sounds like something an immortal would do. But I'm curious if the actual Great Lake Avengers exist on this Earth, or if he's just yet to form them. But who knows, because it is a weird team. When they're talking about how they found out that Mr. Immortal faked his death, it was because of a website called Intelligentsia. In the comics, Intelligentsia is actually a group of the greatest and most sinister minds on planet Earth. So some of the members are like Dr. Doom, MODOK, Awesome Android, Leader, and Super Ape. And there's a couple other ones as well. While they're also in that meeting, Mr. Immortal mentions his wife who left him a bunch of gold, Baroness Cromwell. Well, in history, there is an actual Baroness Cromwell, but we're going to talk about a possible mention that's kind of like a weird one, and that has to do with a vampire. So Lily Cromwell, also known as Baroness Blood, and aliases are Baroness Lady Cromwell. So if this is actually the character they're referring to, I would think this would be pretty interesting. We're not going to jump too far into her backstory, but just know that she was a vampire that was brought up by Dracula. If this is actually the character they're referring to, this is one of the first vampires we've heard about. But honestly, I don't think it is, because he said she left him, and if she's a vampire, she's still alive, unless Blade got to her. The thing is with She-Hulk, you could add these kind of characters, these random superheroes that are in comics, that are just like no one would know about them, and just place them in, which I think it just worked. I also like how Mallory and Nikki went to the Intelligentsia site, and they found a hate page for She-Hulk. Which pretty much, the funny part is about the site, is that it literally had stuff that you'd see on Twitter, like, the Hulk could totally beat She-Hulk in a fight. He's not that weak, blah, blah, blah. Like, literally what you would have seen on Twitter or TikTok, which is funny. It's literally just, again, calling out the haters preemptively, because this was made before all that. But that page literally had death threats, how to kill She-Hulk, can we thwart She-Hulk, like, pretty bad stuff going on with it. I mean, that just means people are out to get her. Then after Nikki's trying to call Jen, it shows us the scene where they're putting the new needle in a case to get her blood, and that She-Hulk's being watched this entire time. Hopefully in the next episode we get more information about that, so we can figure out what is going on, who's after She-Hulk, and why do they want her blood. I'm assuming it's because they want to make another Hulk, and most likely a red one. That's what my hope is anyway. I didn't happen to see a QR code, so if you see one, let me know down in the comments, because I would love to see what it's going to be about. Did you guys pick up on any Easter eggs? Let me know down in the comments. I was really hoping we get a little bit more, but it was, like Jen said in the beginning, it was a self-contained wedding episode. Let me know your thoughts on the episode, and if you guys like content just like this, hit the subscribe button for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.